guys, this is Brent for TopoRanger. As you could probably already tell, based upon a little bit of footage I put at the beginning of this video, or this episode, you're probably asking yourself, what is Brett doing in a cemetery? What's he got going on now? Well, you're right, I am in a cemetery. I'm here in almost in the heart of my hometown, York, Pennsylvania, and I'm at Prospect Hill Cemetery. As you can see, the cemetery is right up there. This is a very large cemetery. Like I said, almost in the middle of York. And the reason I'm here today is, other than to get lost here in the bushes, is that I'm going to show you something I discovered myself personally here maybe 5 years ago. And also as a way to try to explain or try to give an example to everybody out there that sometimes things can, what am I trying to say? Sometimes you overlook things and you can find really cool locations very close to home that maybe you've been bypassing for years simply because you don't look, and also because a lot of cool locations just aren't on a map. They're not really well known even by the people who live in these locations. And what I found here in Prospect Hill Cemetery 4 or 5 years ago was, for me, very interesting, because I'm interested in geology, karst hydrology, topography, everything that I kind of talk about on my channel here. I like to explore urban settings as well. I like going in tunnels and old buildings and stuff like that. I haven't done too much of that for this channel yet, but I want to in the future. So, and this is kind of a halfway point. This is kind of an urban exploration, but it's actually of a natural area enclosed by urban development. So I need to find, there's a stream that runs down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find that stream, then I'm going to creek crawl upstream to till I get to where I want to show you what I found. The two features that I found here, I didn't discover them. Obviously, people know they're here before, but I never saw them located on any geologic map or any topo map of this area. However, they're obviously well-known features. This is limestone. We're looking at a big chunk of the Kinzer's limestone. That's Cambrian age limestone. It's actually a formation, which means it's made up of different. You have a formation. It's made up of different layers and are all contained within the formation. The Kinzer's formation has 4 members to it. The bottom layer is a dark gray shale, and also what they call earthy limestone. And then on top of that, you have a layer of limestone that has composition varies. Then on top of that, you have a layer of pure white marble, which is really nice. Then on top of that, you have another layer of dark gray to dark blue limestone. In this area, in the York Valley and the Conestoga Valley, the Kinzer's formation, except for the shale at the bottom, is a pretty significant cave former. And also, it has the ability to transmit water through conduits, aka cave passages, of various sizes. And the Kinzer's formation is also popular to quarry. There's a lot of large quarries around here that have exploited some of the purer beds within the Kinzer's, and the marble too. So basically, I kind of found these two features using Google Earth, because you can go into Google Earth and you go into historical imagery, and depending on the season when the aerial photographs were taken, you can go through during a season when, like now, when there's no leaves, and you can see streams, and you can see paths of streams, and you can see how streams join up. They usually turn up as like dark lines. This thing behind me, I think, is this is an event location where they have weddings and stuff. I think it's called the Willis House. It's actually an historic house right there. And they have a nice grounds here. So I was looking at Google Earth one day, and there's a stream over here called Willis Run, which is a big stream. Used to go across a lot of karst landscape out there in West York, where the mall is now. And then there was this other little stream that was paralleling that ran parallel to the cemetery, and I said, like, I don't remember there being a stream there. So using Google Earth, I followed the stream from George Street over here, and sure enough, in Google Earth, you could see that the stream basically just started at this dark pool that was, or a couple dark pools actually, and then that was it. After that, you just go into the the graveyard. Now the graveyard itself is a hill. The high points sorry, not the graveyard, the cemetery. The cemetery itself is a hill, and the high points of the cemetery correspond to the lowest member of the Kinzers, which is the shale. Now you may be wondering, well, why would the high parts topographically be the low parts in stratigraphically? And that's because you have the rock member like this. It's actually tilted like this, so that where this finger is the limestone, and where my pinky is the underlying shale, right? So it's tilted like this. So what you get is actually the high points exposing the lower beds of a formation, and that's basically what happens here. So you have, and in this general area, you have a large area of Kinzers, not only Kinzers formation and the limestones contained therein, but also of the vintage dolomite and the ledger dolomite. Now remember, the ledger dolomite, that was the dolomite that was mined over in Billmeyer, where the White Cliffs of Conoy are. So you just get this vast area right in this right just outside of downtown York, in the Conestoga Valley here. And so long story short, those dark spots where the stream that paralleled the cemetery were coming out, I pretty much figured it out, before I even came here, that these were springs, and based upon the type of rock they were on, the Kinzers limestone, these were karst springs, which means the water is coming up through cave passages underground and springing up. And this is one of them. This is the larger of the two. And this is in between the cemetery and, like, again, I think it's called the Willis House. But as you can see, the spring pool itself is large. It's got to be 50 feet across. It's like basically like a 50-foot circle. And this is a big spring. Now the flow itself is not that big, but it's not a trickle. And this spring pool here, which looks to me to be pretty much as it appeared, a couple hundred years ago, this is a big spring. And then there's another one over there in the cemetery, where the spring pool is not as big, but the flow is equatable. And so you have this large karst spring. It's disgorging this water 24/7. This would have been an important site, I believe, in colonial times. And it's probably why the house, which is an old house, is there in the first place. but it's here and it's not on the map. It has no name. It should definitely be on a geologic map, but it's not. See, there's a little exposure there, but that almost looks like the marble. But anyway, that was my point, was that, listen, you know, there are features, all kinds of different stuff, topographic and otherwise, hiding in plain sight, meaning they're hiding right, you know, I don't live far from here. But you look at that water, it's clear. So what I want to do today is I want to show you these springs, and then I want to put my waterproof housing on this cam, and then I want to actually go down into the springs, and this is a perfect place for it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's all kinds of aquatic plant life in there, the kind of plants that only really thrive in the temperature and the chemistry of spring water. And the water is just really clear, except for that spot right there, which looks like it's muddy. Now so this is the one, like I said, after this one I'm going to go to the other one, but I want to get some underwater shots here. It's just a really nice little area. When the weather's better, it's kind of a cold day today. When the weather is better, this would be an awesome spot. And here we have a little, it looks like they build up a little bit of a dam here to kind of pool this. So this spring pool might be a little bit bigger than it would have been naturally. And as I've been walking around, I've been kind of looking for the vent. Sometimes, you know, with springs like this, you'll actually see an opening, a little cave passage going down into the bedrock. Now, as much as I would like to go in there and muck around, I'm not going to do that. But I am going to walk around the perimeter once I get the housing on, and stick the camera underwater at various points and see if we can't see something. Here's the outflow. This is the discharge right here. Like I said, it's not a gigantic spring, but it's not bad. And some of it also goes through. This is kind of a leaky dam, so you're obviously going to be getting some discharge through this this grassy area right here too. So I don't know if this is actually the total discharge. What I'm going to do first is we're going to go to the other one, and I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to put the housing on. As you can see, there's lots of sediment here. I'm going to put the housing on and get my underwater shots there, and then come back here and do the underwater shots there. Here comes the sun. That's cool. You see this? See these aquatic plants? Yeah, see this over here? See, here's another area. That's the main point of discharge. Here's another spot right here. See that? You see the water coming out there? There's water coming out over here. Water coming out right there. So basically, you know, water coming out there. So if you were to seal off this dam here so that nothing was getting out, and you put all the discharge through there, through that one spot, it'd probably be 2 or 3 times the amount of water as we could see just that's coming over there now. Now this is just, now some of this creek here actually heads up here. It goes under a road, keeps heading west. I haven't followed it too far, so I don't know if the original, I'm willing to bet that the creek itself, this is the main part of the creek, probably heads up at a spring. There's a little spring, there's a couple little springs right here. And as you can see, this is nice, clear water. So I'm just upstream of where the big spring, or the larger of the 2 springs that I'm going to show you today, discharges into the creek. This way is the main channel of the creek, which heads west. And then this one here, this is the spring run that heads to the second spring. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and walk up this spring run, and we're going to go check out the other spring, which is comes right up against the cemetery. So here we are at the second spring. I call this one Cemetary Spring, obviously, because it backs right up on Prospect Hill Cemetery, which is a large cemetery in York, Pennsylvania. This spring here really consists of two, which is this main spring pool here with quite a bit of the flow coming out here. But then there's also this other spring, which doesn't really have a pool. It's too shallow. It's got a lot of plant growth in there, but as you can see, it comes up along this path here, and you can tell right here, that's one of the discharge, and then the discharge from the main part comes here. Basically, they meet up here. You can get more of an idea. Right there, you can kind of see the combined flow. The bed here is probably about 7 feet wide. It's very shallow though. I mean, you know, these springs are not pumping out huge amounts, but they are significant in this area nonetheless. There used to be springs, a lot more springs like this, karst springs, coming up out of limestone before York was, you know, for urban sprawl, so to speak. A lot of them dried up, some of them were quarried away. This one's not nearly as pretty as the other one. It's not as big, it's not as deep. It doesn't have nearly the amount of aquatic plant life that the other one does. I don't know why that is. It may just be the setting. As you can see, there's a big pipe here. Looks like there's a plastic bag. It's just a lot of muck and leaves and stuff like that. However, when I was here before, it did have something that was very that was very interesting, and that is, I got to be careful because this sediment is like quicksand. What it had was, I noticed at the bottom of the spring, which is right there, it has these. It was bubbling. The fine silt was bubbling up. And because I don't know if I can get to it without getting stuck. I don't know if you can see it, but right there and right there are these, and right there is actually the big one. There's actually these little depressions in the silt, and I think that's where the main and most of the flow is going to come from. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to put the housing on my camera, and we're going to head over here to this log. I'm going to work my way out of this log, and then I'm going to stick the camera right down in there and see if we can't capture some of that silt bubbling up, because the last time I was here I noticed I did see it. Of course, the discharge now might not, this is where I fall over, might not be as much as it was when I was here before. All right, I'm gonna put on the housing right here, and then we're gonna head over there. Okay. There you go. Muck boots work really well as long as you don't go over the top, which is exactly what I did back there. Some of the sediment at the bottom of that stream is really deep. So my main questions today are basically, it'd be really cool to do a chemical analysis of this water, and because by that analysis you could probably tell whether these springs are coming from a system of small fractures or whether they're actually coming from conduits. My guess is probably coming from both, but they're probably a large part of this is coming out of underwater cave system that underlies this general area. The water table, obviously this is base level for this area, even though there are some big quarries over there that are several hundred feet deep. This is base level. Most of the conduits that are feeding these springs here, and there's actually a whole bunch of them, small and large, in this general area. A lot of that's most likely underwater. So the question is, what did we learn today? Not in terms of geology, but in terms of just finding stuff, is that, you know, maps are great to use as a guide, but sometimes you got to kind of not necessarily go off the map, but you got to dig a little bit deeper, because not everything that's interesting is you're going to find on the map. So if you really want to explore and get into stuff, whether it's in an urban setting, which is kind of like what this is, or a country setting, you know, maps don't show everything, and there are a lot of little hidden gems off the main trail and in blank areas of the map. So basically, I guess if I wanted to say one thing today, was just, you know, make sure you get off the map, or you get into the map, and you can find some really cool things that, you know, maybe not a lot of people know about. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this episode. This is Brett for TopoRanger, signing out.